Commander Jessica Hayes stood at the observation deck of the Stellar Wanderer, her reflection ghosting against the reinforced quantum glass as she watched the distant stars, her hands clasped behind her back, a habit from her years at the Space Force Academy. The massive vessel hummed beneath her feet, its revolutionary engines operating at less than 1% capacity to maintain their carefully crafted disguise. "Commander," Lieutenant Roberts' voice came through her neural interface. "The Zexstar fleet has entered detection range. Their scan patterns match our predictions." Hayes allowed herself a small smile. "Excellent. Dr. Thompson, how's our hull signature looking?" "Beautiful." Marcus Thompson's voice carried the excitement he always had when discussing his life's work. "The quantum field is perfectly calibrated to show exactly what they expect to see. A primitive generation ship struggling through space. They're picking up our artificial radiation leaks right now." The bridge crew worked with practiced precision, each member playing their part in humanity's most elaborate deception. The Stellar Wanderer, pride of the United Earth Fleet, was anything but the outdated vessel it appeared to be. Its hull, composed of quantum-locked materials that could exist in multiple states simultaneously, was currently projecting the signature of simple titanium alloys and basic radiation shielding. "Multiple vessels approaching, Commander," Security Chief Rodriguez reported from his station. "They're maintaining standard attack formation. Looks like they bought our act." Hayes nodded, watching as the alien ships grew larger on the main display. The Zexstar vessels were impressive, their crystalline structures gleaming with purple energy signatures. To most species in the galaxy, such ships would be terrifying. To the crew of the Wanderer, they were practically antiques. "All hands, this is Commander Hayes," she broadcast ship-wide. "Our friends have taken the bait. Maintain emissions control and remember, we're just poor, simple humans who barely managed to build a generation ship." A ripple of suppressed laughter echoed through the neural network. The first transmission from the Zexstar fleet arrived right on schedule. A towering, serpentine alien appeared on the command screen, its scales shifting between deep blue and violet. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Zexstar space. Prepare to be boarded and studied. Resistance is futile and unnecessary." Hayes activated the prepared response, a slightly static-filled, delayed transmission that would further sell their technological inferiority. "This is the Earth vessel Stellar Wanderer. We're on a peaceful mission of exploration. Please allow us passage through your territory." Dr. Thompson's voice came through on a private channel. "They're scanning us again, Commander. More detailed this time. The quantum field is holding perfectly. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see." "Unknown species," the Zexstar commander replied, mandibles clicking in what the crew recognized as amusement. "Your vessel's design is intriguing, if primitive. We will add your technological and biological distinctiveness to our research archives." Hayes watched the alien ships move into boarding position, their energy weapons powering up for what they assumed would be a simple disable and capture operation. If they only knew that the Wanderer's hull could absorb their entire fleet's combined firepower without raising the internal temperature by a single degree. "Security teams in position," Rodriguez reported. "Medical bay is prepped for any potential casualties. We might need to sell this." Lieutenant Cooper's voice came through next. "Engineering reports all systems nominal. Quantum core is stable and ready for Phase 2. Hayes took a deep breath, mentally reviewing the next stages of their mission. The Zexstar had been pushing into human space for months, testing their borders, attempting to gauge Earth's technological level. Today, they would learn exactly how badly they had underestimated humanity. "All hands," Hayes broadcast, "remember your training. Let them think they have the upper hand. Let them board us. Let them explore our primitive vessel." She paused, allowing herself another small smile. "And when the time comes, show them why humanity reached the stars not through conquest, but because we dreamed bigger than anyone else thought possible." The first boarding craft latched onto their hull, cutting tools beginning their work on the outer layer. In the quantum core, Dr. Thompson watched his displays with pride. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the simplest-looking vessel could hide the most devastating secrets. Commander Hayes settled into her command chair, ready to orchestrate humanity's greatest revelation to the galaxy. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. Lieutenant Amanda Cooper stood with false nervousness as the Zexstar boarding party's cutting tools finally breached the outer hull. The aliens had spent 20 minutes longer than expected trying to penetrate what they assumed was basic metal alloy. Behind her carefully crafted, fearful expression, she counted down the seconds. Their frustration is showing. Security Chief Rodriguez whispered through their neural link. Third cutting tool just burned out. They're switching to plasma torches. The breach point glowed cherry red, then white-hot as the aliens finally created an entrance. Superheated metal dripped to the deck, or appeared to. In reality, the quantum-locked hull was merely shifting states to create the illusion of melting. 4 Zexstar warriors stepped through the breach, their crystalline armor gleaming under the corridor's emergency lighting. The lead alien, nearly 8 feet tall, fixed Cooper with all 3 of its eyes. Submit to collection, primitive. Your resistance has been noted as inefficient. Cooper raised her hands in surrender, allowing them to shake slightly. Please, she said, her voice trembling perfectly. We're just an exploration vessel. We didn't mean to enter your territory. Dr. Marcus Thompson's voice whispered in her neural link. Quantum field holding stable. They're still seeing exactly what we want them to see. Nice acting, by the way. The alien commander raised what appeared to be an advanced scanning device. Its purple beam swept over Cooper, then the corridor walls. Primitive metals. It clicked to its subordinates. Basic life support. No shield generators detected. Hardly worth the energy we expended breaching the hull. More Zexstar troops poured through the breach, their weapons charged and ready. Cooper watched with hidden amusement as they began setting up portable shield generators. Technology humanity had surpassed decades ago. Your species will be cataloged, the commander announced. Your vessel's design, while obsolete, shows interesting adaptations. You will assist us in understanding your engineering choices. Cooper kept her hands raised but allowed herself a small smile. Of course. Though I should warn you about one small detail. The alien commander stepped forward, looming over her. Your warnings are irrelevant. We have conquered hundreds of species. Your technology is at least 3 centuries behind our own. Receiving final confirmation from the quantum core, Thompson's voice came through. Ready when you are, Lieutenant. Cooper's smile widened. The thing is, Commander, you really should have scanned for quantum signatures. The alien raised its weapon. Quantum technology is beyond your species' capability. Our scans showed no such. The corridor shimmered. The Zexstar troops stumbled as the metal beneath their feet seemed to become liquid, then solid, then something in between. Their portable shield generators sparked and died as reality itself seemed to hiccup around them. What deception is this? The commander demanded, its scales flushing deep purple with alarm. Cooper dropped her surrendering pose and straightened her uniform. Welcome aboard the Stellar Wanderer, gentlemen. I hope you enjoy your tour of humanity's first quantum probability vessel. The aliens opened fire. Their energy weapons discharged with satisfying flashes, but the beams passed through Cooper as if she wasn't there. In truth, she was simultaneously there and 3 feet to the left. Her quantum state spread across multiple possibilities. Security teams in position, Rodriguez reported, ready to demonstrate our actual capabilities. The corridor shifted again. Walls became floors, floors became ceilings. The Zexstar troops found themselves separated, their advanced armor useless against a vessel that could manipulate the very fabric of space-time. Your species, Cooper said calmly, walking through a barrage of alien weapons fire, made 2 significant mistakes today. First, you assumed that any technology you couldn't detect must not exist. Second, she gestured, and the corridor reformed around the aliens like a closing fist. You assumed humanity would advertise its true capabilities. The alien commander's translator crackled as it tried to process Cooper's words. Impossible. Your species, you were barely reaching your moon when we first detected you. Cooper nodded. That's what we wanted everyone to think. Much safer that way. Less chance of conflict. But now that you've forced the issue. She touched her neural interface. Dr. Thompson, please show our guests why we call this ship the Wanderer. The entire vessel hummed with power as its quantum core spun up to combat status. Around the trapped Zexstar boarding party, reality itself began to bend and twist. Cooper's smile never wavered. Welcome to the future, gentlemen. I do hope you survive the experience. Captain Michael Davidson watched the holographic display as it tracked the scattered Zexstar boarding parties throughout the stellar Wanderer. The aliens had broken into smaller groups, trying desperately to reach what they thought was the bridge. Instead, they were walking through an ever-changing labyrinth of quantum possibilities. Fascinating, Engineer Emily Foster said, her fingers dancing across her control panel. They keep trying to map the corridors with their advanced scanning equipment. Should I show them the same layout twice? Davidson chuckled. Give them a few repeats, just enough to make them think they're going mad. On the display, one group of Zexstar warriors found themselves walking through what appeared to be the same corridor for the 5th time. Their leader, scales now a mottled green with frustration, fired its weapon at the wall. The energy blast passed through several quantum states before dissipating harmlessly. Dr. Thompson, Davidson called through the neural link. How's our power consumption looking? Barely registering, Captain, Thompson replied from the quantum core. The ship's processing capability actually improves the more they try to analyze it. Their scanning attempts are inadvertently feeding our probability matrix. Another alien group reached what they thought was the engine room, only to find themselves in what appeared to be a massive garden. The space was actually the ship's quantum probability testing chamber, but to their primitive scanners, it registered as a recreational area. They're starting to show signs of stress, Dr. Catherine Wells reported from medical. Their bio readings indicate elevated anxiety levels. Should I begin introducing calming atmospheric agents? Davidson considered this. Not yet. Let them experience the full effect of their miscalculation. Lieutenant Cooper, how's our guest in Section 4? The commander's having a delightful time, Cooper responded, amusement clear in her voice. He's watched his own boarding point disappear and reappear 3 times now. I think he's starting to question his life choices. The ship's quantum architecture continued its dance, corridors flowing like water, rooms shifting between states of existence. To the crew, linked through their neural interfaces to the ship's consciousness, the changes were natural, expected. To the Zexstar, it was a nightmare of impossible physics. New reading from the alien flagship, Foster announced. They're charging weapons. Looks like they're considering putting their boarding teams out of their misery. Davidson nodded. Right on schedule. Dr. Thompson, shall we show them why that's a poor decision? With pleasure, Captain. Quantum field expanding to combat radius. The Wanderer's outer hull began to shift, its appearance rippling like heat waves over desert sand. The Zexstar weapons fired, their energy beams striking the ship and passing through it entirely, as if the vessel wasn't there. Inside, the trapped alien warriors watched in horror as parts of the ship became transparent, showing them the void of space, then snapped back to solid metal. Their commander, still trapped in Section 4 with Cooper, finally broke. What manner of demons are you? It demanded, its translator struggling with the concept. Cooper smiled. Not demons, Commander. Just humans who learn to think beyond conventional physics. Your species masters 3 dimensions. We've learned to master probability itself. Davidson watched as the alien boarding teams began to cluster together, seeking safety in numbers. Foster, I think it's time for the final demonstration. Show them what happens when they're all in one place. The engineer grinned. Initiating quantum fold, sir. The sections of the ship containing the Zexstar troops began to fold in on themselves, not in physical space, but in probability space. To the aliens, it appeared as if reality itself was origami, bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. All hostile forces now contained in Quantum Bubble 6, Foster reported. They're effectively trapped in a pocket of frozen probability. Davidson stood from his command chair, straightening his uniform. Well done, everyone. Dr. Thompson, prepare for Phase 4. It's time to show our guests what happens when humanity decides to stop playing nice. Through the neural link, he felt his crew's anticipation. The Stellar Wanderer had been humanity's greatest secret, a vessel that proved the impossible was merely improbable. Now, as the alien fleet outside prepared for what they thought would be a simple rescue operation, that secret was about to become a legend. Lieutenant Cooper, Davidson called. Please inform our guests that their tour of the impossible is about to begin. Dr. Thomas Anderson stood before the trapped Zexthar boarding parties, their weapons still pointed at him despite the futility. The quantum bubble containing them shimmered with possibilities, each one a testament to humanity's mastery over probability itself. Your understanding of physics, Anderson explained, pacing before the bewildered aliens, is remarkably advanced for a conventional species. But you see, humanity took a different path. We didn't just study the rules of the universe. We learned to bend them. The alien commander's scales flickered between colors of rage and fear. Impossible. Our scientists have mapped every quantum principle. Your species was barely achieving nuclear fission when we first observed you. Anderson smiled. Did you ever wonder why we let you observe us? Why we maintained the facade of primitive technology? He gestured, and the quantum bubble's walls became transparent, showing the alien fleet outside. We needed to understand how advanced species would react to us. You've provided an excellent case study. Lieutenant Cooper's voice came through his neural link. Main fleet is charging weapons, Doctor. Should be quite a show. The Zexthar flagship fired, its crystalline cannons launching streams of plasma that could shear through conventional battleships. The beams struck the Wanderer's hull and split into countless quantum possibilities, each carrying a fraction of the original energy. Fascinating design, your weapons, Anderson continued, as if discussing the weather. The problem is, they only exist in one quantum state at a time. The Wanderer exists in all possible states simultaneously. Your beams are literally trying to hit a ship that both is and isn't where you're aiming. Security Chief Rodriguez appeared beside him, walking through what appeared to be solid metal. The aliens recoiled, their weapons tracking his movement. Doctor, Captain Davidson suggests we demonstrate our offensive capabilities. These gentlemen seem slow to grasp the concept. Anderson nodded. Very well. Emily, would you do the honors? Engineer Foster's voice filled the quantum bubble. Initiating probability cascade, Doctor. Recommend our guests brace themselves. This might disturb their understanding of reality. The space around the trapped Zexthar troops began to fragment, each piece showing a different possibility. In one, they saw their fleet victorious. In another, their ships were never built. In a third, their entire species had evolved along a different path. You see, Anderson explained, quantum probability isn't just about being in multiple places at once. It's about accessing all possible timelines, all potential realities. The Wanderer doesn't just travel through space. It surfs the waves of probability itself. The alien commander finally lowered its weapon. How long has your species possessed this technology? Long enough to perfect it, Rodriguez answered. Long enough to ensure that when we finally revealed ourselves, no conventional force could threaten us. Through the transparent walls, they watched as another barrage from the alien fleet passed harmlessly through the Wanderer. The ship's quantum field was now fully active, making it functionally invulnerable to conventional attacks. Your species, the commander said, its translator struggling with complex concepts, hid its true nature, played at being primitive. Why? Anderson's expression softened slightly. Because, Commander, humanity learned long ago that power without wisdom leads to destruction. We needed to understand how advanced species would treat those they considered inferior. Your actions today have been educational. The quantum bubble shimmed again, and suddenly the aliens found themselves on what appeared to be the Wanderer's bridge. Captain Davidson stood waiting for them, his uniform pristine. "Welcome to the real Stellar Wanderer," Davidson announced. "You're the first non-humans to see our true command center. Consider it a gesture of good faith." Around them, holographic displays showed impossible readings, probability matrices that shouldn't exist, and power levels that defied conventional physics. The alien troops watched in stunned silence as their mighty fleet's weapons continued to pass harmlessly through the vessel. "Now then," Davidson continued, settling into his command chair, "shall we discuss the terms of your species' future relationship with humanity? I believe you'll find us quite reasonable, despite your initial approach." The alien commander, facing the full reality of its situation, could only nod. Around them, the Wanderer hummed with power, its quantum core ready to demonstrate even more impossible feats if necessary. Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell's hands danced across the quantum helm controls, each movement altering the Wanderer's position in both space and probability. The Zexstar fleet had surrounded them, their crystalline vessels forming a sphere of supposedly overwhelming firepower. "Time to show them some real piloting," Mitchell said, his neural link synchronizing perfectly with the ship's quantum core. "Dr. Wells, probability matrix stable. Holding at 99% coherence." Catherine Wells replied from her station. "You've got the full spectrum to play with. Make it count." The alien commander and his troops watched from the bridge, their scales shifting between colors of disbelief and terror as Mitchell began his demonstration. The Wanderer shimmered, its quantum field expanding to combat radius. "First lesson in quantum navigation," Mitchell announced, his voice carrying through the universal translator. "Distance is just a probability we choose to accept." The massive ship vanished, reappearing simultaneously at 12 different points around the Zexstar fleet. Each image was solid, real, existing in its own quantum state. The alien vessels fired, their weapons passing through some images while others absorbed the attacks without effect. "Impossible," one of the alien scientists exclaimed. "The energy requirements alone would." "That's your second mistake," Dr. Wells interrupted, her fingers adjusting probability matrices. "You're thinking in terms of energy and mass. We're thinking in terms of possibility and probability." Mitchell grinned as he executed his next maneuver. The Wanderer phased through one of the alien vessels, passing through its matter as if it were fog. As they emerged, the alien ship's quantum signature showed momentary disruption, existing in multiple states at once. "What have you done to our ship?" the commander demanded, watching his vessel flicker between states of reality. "Introduced it to quantum uncertainty," Wells explained. "Don't worry, it'll stabilize in about 10 minutes. Consider it a sample of our technology." The neural link hummed with data as Mitchell prepared for his signature move. "Captain, requesting permission to demonstrate the quantum spiral." Davidson nodded. "Show them why we call you the best pilot in the fleet, Lieutenant." The Wanderer's quantum field pulsed, and suddenly the ship began moving in a pattern that shouldn't have been possible. It spiraled through four-dimensional space, each turn bringing it through a different quantum state. To the alien fleet sensors, it appeared as if the vessel was dancing through reality itself. "Their targeting systems are going haywire," Security Chief Rodriguez reported with satisfaction. "They can't lock onto something that exists in all possible locations simultaneously." The alien commander's translator crackled as it processed what it was seeing. "Your vessel, it moves as if space itself is meaningless." "Not meaningless," Mitchell corrected, executing another impossible turn. "Just more flexible than you imagined. In quantum space, all points are equally distant from all other points. It's just a matter of choosing which probability to make real." Dr. Wells monitored her readings as the ship continued its dance, quantum coherence holding steady. Their fleet's attempts to track us are actually helping stabilize our probability matrix." Mitchell brought the Wanderer to a relative stop, the ship now existing in a quantum state that made it appear to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The alien fleet's sensors showed thousands of possible locations, each one equally real and equally false. "Final demonstration," Davidson announced. "Lieutenant, show them the quantum jump." Mitchell's hands moved in perfect synchronization with the ship's systems. The Wanderer's quantum field collapsed to a single point, then expanded explosively. For a brief moment, the ship existed at every point in space within a light-year radius. The alien vessel's sensors overloaded, their crystalline computers unable to process the impossible readings. When the Wanderer reappeared, it was directly in the center of their fleet, unscathed and humming with power. "That," Mitchell said, turning to face the stunned alien observers, "is how humanity travels between stars. We don't force our way through space. We simply adjust probability until we're where we want to be." The alien commander stared at the helm controls, its three eyes trying to comprehend the impossible readings. "Your species, you've mastered movement through probability itself." "Among other things," Davidson replied. "Now shall we discuss how this demonstration has changed your perspective on humanity's capabilities?" Outside, the alien fleet hung motionless, their weapons powered down, facing the reality that they had gravely underestimated their supposed prey. Commander Tyler Richardson stood in the quantum core chamber, the heart of the stellar Wanderer's impossible capabilities. Around him, crystalline structures pulsed with possibilities, each one representing a different quantum state the ship could occupy. "Your weapons technology," he explained to the gathered Zexthar officials, "is based on the principle of certainty. Each blast, each beam, exists in a single, definite state." He gestured to the swirling quantum matrices surrounding them. "We chose a different path." The alien scientists moved cautiously through the chamber, their scanning devices producing increasingly confused readings. One of them, scales shimmering with frustrated intelligence, finally spoke. "Our understanding of quantum mechanics clearly shows the impossibility of maintaining coherence at this scale. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using conventional physics," Dr. Wells interrupted, emerging from a quantum probability shadow. "Fortunately, we stopped thinking conventionally about a century ago." On the main display, the alien fleet continued its futile attempts to lock weapons on the Wanderer. Each targeting solution they calculated became invalid the moment it was completed, as the ship shifted between quantum states faster than their computers could process. "Watch this," Richardson said, placing his hand on a control panel. The quantum core pulsed, and suddenly the chamber they stood in existed in 3 different configurations simultaneously. The aliens stumbled as reality itself seemed to multiply around them. "Impossible," the lead scientist whispered. "Matter cannot exist in multiple states at this scale. The wave function would collapse." "Unless," Wells interjected, "you found a way to maintain quantum coherence through probability manipulation. Your species tried to master quantum mechanics. We learned to dance with it instead." Through his neural link, Richardson received updates from the bridge. The alien fleet was attempting to coordinate a massive barrage, hoping to hit at least one quantum state of the Wanderer. He smiled. "Captain," he called, "permission to demonstrate our defensive capabilities." "Granted," Davidson's voice echoed through the chamber. "Show them why conventional weapons are useless against quantum architecture." Richardson nodded to Wells, who began adjusting probability matrices. The quantum core hummed louder, its crystalline structures pulsing with increasing intensity. "Your fleet is about to fire," he told the alien observers. "Watch carefully. This is why humanity never feared your weapons." The Zexthar fleet launched their attack. Hundreds of energy beams, each capable of destroying a conventional battleship, converged on the Wanderer's position. The aliens watched, expecting at least some damage to the vessel. Instead, the beams struck the ship's quantum field and shattered into countless possibilities. Each weapon blast existed in all possible states simultaneously, their energy dispersed across probability itself. "You see," Wells explained, monitoring the readings, "your weapons can only exist in one state at a time. But the Wanderer exists in all states simultaneously. You're not trying to hit a ship. You're trying to hit every possible version of a ship across infinite probabilities." The alien scientists huddled around their scanning devices, their scales shifting through colors of disbelief and dawning comprehension. The lead scientist looked up, its three eyes focusing on Richardson. "Your species, you've weaponized uncertainty itself." Richardson shook his head. "No, we've learned to embrace it. The universe isn't built on certainty. It's built on probability and possibility. The moment we accepted that, everything changed." Through the quantum shadows, they could see the alien fleet's weapons powering down. The futility of their attack was finally becoming clear to their commanders. "This technology," the lead scientist said, "it changes everything. Our entire understanding of physics is incomplete," Wells finished. "But not wrong. You simply stopped exploring when you thought you had all the answers. Humanity never stopped asking questions." Richardson touched the control panel again, and the quantum core chamber resolved into a single state. The display showed the alien fleet, now motionless, their mighty weapons useless against humanity's mastery of probability. "Now," he said, "shall we discuss how this changes the balance of power in our region of space? Or would you prefer another demonstration?" The aliens looked at each other, their scales now showing colors of submission and respect. They had come expecting to find primitive humans in a simple generation ship. Instead, they had found masters of quantum probability who had been watching, waiting, and preparing for this moment. The house of cards that was their technological superiority had finally collapsed. Chief Tactical Officer Sophia Thompson stood at her station, a slight smile playing across her lips as she prepared the Wanderer's quantum combat systems. The Zexthar fleet hung motionless against the starfield, their initial arrogance replaced by a very different emotion: fear. "All quantum matrices synchronized," Engineer David Cooper reported from below decks. "Ready to demonstrate our offensive capabilities whenever you give the word." Captain Davidson nodded from his command chair. "Begin the combat demonstration, Chief Thompson. Let's show our guests why humanity chose to hide its true nature for so long." Thompson's fingers danced across her quantum interface, neural links providing perfect synchronization with the ship's systems. "Initiating Quantum Battle Configuration Alpha. Dr. Wells, probability field stable. Coherence at 100%. Wells confirmed. Multiple quantum states ready for manifestation." The Wanderer hummed, its quantum core spinning up to full power for the first time since its launch. Around them, reality began to shift and bend as Thompson executed her first command sequence. The massive vessel split into 3 perfect copies, each one as real as the original. The alien observers on the bridge gasped as their sensors confirmed what their eyes were telling them. Somehow, the ship now existed in 3 places simultaneously. "Impossible," the Zexthar commander whispered. "The power requirements alone ruled." "You're still thinking in conventional terms," Thompson interrupted. "Watch this." Each copy of the Wanderer began moving independently, their quantum fields interacting in ways that defied traditional physics. Where they overlapped, reality itself seemed to ripple and fold. "Target practice demonstration," Thompson announced. "Single quantum lance, minimum power." From the central version of the Wanderer, a beam of pure probability lanced out. Unlike conventional weapons, it didn't travel through space. It simply existed at all points between the ship and its target simultaneously. When it struck one of the disabled Zexthar vessels, the alien ship briefly existed in multiple states at once, intact, damaged, and atomized. "Don't worry," Cooper called out, noting the alien's distress. "We calibrated it to resolve back to the intact state. Consider it a preview of capabilities we prefer not to use." The 3 versions of the Wanderer began a complex dance, moving through patterns that should have been impossible. Each ship was both real and unreal, existing in a quantum superposition that made them effectively invulnerable to conventional weapons. Your entire fleet, Thompson explained while executing another maneuver, couldn't damage a single quantum state of our vessel. And this ship, it's one of our older models. The alien commander's scales shifted to a deep purple of disbelief. Older models. Indeed, Davidson confirmed. The Wanderer was our first successful quantum probability vessel. A prototype, you might say. Our newer ships have capabilities that make these demonstrations look primitive. Thompson brought the three versions of the ship back together, merging them into a single vessel once more. The quantum wake of their movement left ripples in space-time itself, a visible demonstration of humanity's mastery over probability. Final demonstration, she announced. Full quantum combat sphere. The Wanderer's quantum field expanded dramatically, enveloping the entire alien fleet in a bubble of altered probability. Inside this sphere, conventional physics began to break down. The crystalline ships of the Zexthar fleet found themselves existing in multiple states simultaneously, their crews experiencing every possible outcome of their failed invasion attempt. We could resolve this probability field, Thompson explained calmly, in any way we choose. Your fleet could emerge intact, or atomized, or transformed into something entirely different. The choice, quite literally, is ours to make. The alien commander, watching his mighty fleet reduced to quantum possibilities, finally understood the true scope of humanity's power. Your species, you weren't hiding in fear. You were protecting us from this knowledge. Correct, Davidson said, rising from his chair. Humanity learned long ago that power without wisdom leads to destruction. We needed to understand how advanced species would treat those they considered inferior. Your actions today have been instructive. Thompson collapsed the quantum combat sphere, allowing the alien fleet to resolve back into a single, stable state. The Zexthar vessels hung in space, their weapons powered down, their crews coming to terms with the new reality they faced. Now then, Davidson continued, shall we discuss the terms of peaceful coexistence? I believe you'll find humanity quite reasonable, despite your earlier misconceptions. The age of humanity hiding its true nature was over. The dance of quantum probability had begun. Captain Davidson watched as Dr. Rachel Barnes prepared the quantum communication array. The Zexthar fleet commanders had been brought aboard the Wanderer for this final demonstration, humanity's first official message to the wider galaxy. Neural links synchronized, Barnes reported, her fingers moving through probability streams that made up the quantum interface, ready to broadcast across all possible frequencies simultaneously. The alien commander, standing with his fellow officers, watched in continued amazement as the quantum core pulsed with possibilities. Their own communication systems, once considered the pinnacle of technological achievement, now seemed as primitive as smoke signals. Before we begin, Davidson said, turning to address their guests, I want you to understand something. What you've witnessed today isn't the extent of human capabilities. It's merely what we chose to reveal. Chief Science Officer Alexander Matthews stepped forward, his holographic displays showing the detailed scans of the alien fleet's technology. Your ships, your weapons, your quantum theory. We mapped them all decades ago. We watched, we learned, and we evolved. But why reveal yourselves now? The alien commander asked, scales shifting in confused patterns. Why maintain the facade of primitives for so long? Davidson smiled. Because, Commander, humanity learned something crucial during our development. Power without understanding leads to destruction. We needed to know how advanced species would treat those they considered inferior. Dr. Barnes nodded as the quantum communication array reached full power. The entire ship hummed with energy as probability matrices aligned across multiple dimensions. Your civilization, Matthews continued, along with others we've observed, developed through conquest and domination. Humanity chose a different path. We mastered quantum probability not to wage war, but to understand the infinite possibilities of peace. The alien scientists among the group huddled around their scanning devices, trying to comprehend the readings from the communication array. One of them looked up, mandibles clicking in astonishment. This broadcast, it will reach every civilization simultaneously, across all quantum states. Correct, Barnes confirmed. When I activate this array, our message will exist at every point in space at once. No conventional communication system can block it. No quantum shield can deflect it. Davidson moved to the center of the bridge, straightening his uniform. This message marks humanity's true entrance onto the galactic stage. No more hiding. No more pretending to be less than we are. The alien commander's translator crackled as it processed his next words. And if other species react poorly to this revelation, Lieutenant Cooper, who had been quietly monitoring security systems, laughed softly. Commander, the Wanderer is a prototype, a test vessel. Consider what our actual fleet might be capable of. The alien scales all shifted to pale colors of shock as the implications sank in. If this vessel, this supposedly experimental ship, could render their most advanced weapons useless, what other capabilities had humanity developed? Quantum broadcast matrix at full power, Barnes announced. Ready when you are, Captain. Davidson nodded, his expression serious. Let this be a message of peace, but also of warning. Humanity comes not as conquerors, but we will not be conquered. The quantum core pulsed, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath as Barnes activated the communication array. The message, translated into every known language simultaneously, began to broadcast across all of space-time. To all spacefaring civilizations, greetings from humanity. For centuries, we have watched and learned, developing in secret while you tested our borders. Today, we reveal our true nature not as a challenge, but as an invitation. Humanity has mastered quantum probability itself, but we seek cooperation, not domination. Let our demonstration to the Zexthar fleet serve as both promise and warning. We come in peace, but we are prepared for any possibility. As the message resonated across quantum states, Davidson turned back to the alien commanders. Your fleet is free to depart. Return to your people. Tell them what you've witnessed here. And remember, what you've seen today was just the beginning. The Zexthar commander bowed, a gesture of respect its species rarely showed. Humanity has taught us much about assumptions today. We will not forget this lesson. As the alien officers prepared to return to their vessels, Dr. Barnes monitored the quantum readings of their broadcast rippling across space. Humanity's message would reach every corner of the galaxy simultaneously, existing in all possible states until observed. The age of hiding was over. The dance of quantum probability had begun, and humanity stood ready to lead the galaxy into a new era of possibilities.